Everybody, we had some big news come out of Silver Dollar City today. Wasn't initially planning a live stream, but with this announcement, kind of had to jump in here. That's right, they have announced that this is going to be the last season for Fire in the Hole, and we got some talking to do. So if you've been watching my channel for a little while, you have probably already heard me kind of talk about this coming, but Silver Dollar City went and they made it a big announcement today. They live streamed actually for about 15 minutes on their Facebook page and finally made it official that this is Fire in the Hole's last season. But they're actually going to make it special. Unlike a lot of times when you get this announcement that, hey, by the way, if you didn't write it last year, too bad. They're going to celebrate the whole season long. They've got a number of events that they're planning. They've got a number of other things they're hoping to be able to do. So want to talk about it because one of the first things that people are saying is why? So let's talk about why, and then let's talk about what's coming up afterwards and what may happen in that place, what may not happen in that place, and some of the other stuff going on. By the way, Abby wanted to say, who wants a cup of tea? I got my iced tea. Thank you, Abby. But yes, Tweetsy, this has been coming for a long time. This is actually something that has been in the works for quite a while. So here's the story. Fire in the Hole is 51 years old. That's old for a ride. There are not that many roller coasters and rides around that are that old or older. There's some, I mean, especially, hey, you go to Disneyland, they got lots of them, but those have been upgraded and fixed over the years. Fire in the Hole is kind of one of the last of its breed, and it takes more and more work when you have an older ride like that. It takes more and more work to keep it going, and especially when you have something like Fire in the Hole that has all of these old sets and old mannequins and old special effects all inside an old building, and it starts becoming a lot more work. The building is aging, stuff is starting to gradually break down, and there's nothing dangerous at this point. But if you look around, you can start to go, in a few more years, this may not be good. So then the question becomes, what do you do with it? Do you revamp it? Do you update it? Do you rebuild in that spot? Well, the building is old enough that if they were to do that, they're almost going to have to tear down the building. Then you go, all right, so what do we do now? Do we tear it down, try and rebuild it in the same place, or do we do something better? And especially once they added Fireman's Landing, that I think was really kind of the writing on the wall that Fire in the Hole didn't fit over by the Opera House where it was, but it would in Fireman's Landing. And so you saw a couple years ago, they started laying the foundation work for what had been the Red Gold parking lot, and they've got a huge building now. It's obvious what's coming. It's Fire in the Hole 2.0. Whether it's going to be the same, in fact, it's not going to be the same, but whether they'll even call it that or not, but that is basically what's happening. So they had the replacement already in the works. It has been delayed a year, but they thought, well, you know what? We know we're not going to be able to get back our investment on the old Fire in the Hole. We've got to replace it. And unfortunately, it has to be replaced. So let's do this in such a way that we can get the most out of it. Initially, their original plans were to have the new coaster open this year, and Fire in the Hole was going to close last year. And then delays and other stuff have held it up. So they pushed everything back here. I don't know if they were initially going to announce that Fire in the Hole was closing. And they thought, well, you know what? We're behind a year. Let's give it a good send-off. So I'm very grateful for them doing that. Let me show you the short version video announcement that they posted today. They have shared this with media outlets and stuff, so I'm not stealing anything, but this is Silver Dollar City's video that I'm going to pop up here. And let's see. Let me do it this way and let you take a look and see what they posted. I love the scenes they're showing inside the ride here.
Red Flaggers, you come back in here and throw in your pants. Say you ain't got no pants no more. The dirty clothes are gone. So, what did the Sam Bill what they do with your pants? Why, I think they wanted to go to the
That's actually murals on the wall. So that's basically the tribute video that they posted up. Yep, we get to say goodbye this year. Very nice video, I think. So here's basically what's happening. We know that they're not going to be able to use the old ride. It's basically done, unfortunately. So there's a few things to talk about. One's the replacement. They have not announced the replacement. They have not talked even about the replacement. The building is basically done. It's you go by Silver Dollar City and it's obvious. It's huge. The entrance area is kind of shaped a little bit. Track has been arriving. What it looks like is RMC, the company that built Outlaw Run. It looks like some of their single rail track is what I am hearing, but it's still supposed to be a dark ride. We don't know if they're going to be moving stuff from the old ride over, if they're building everything new, or how this is going to work yet. All of that is just guesswork. So if anybody's telling you it's going to be this and this and this and this, don't put a whole lot of stock in it, because the park is not, the people who know are not saying. So we just know that it is going to be big. Now, Brendan actually does have a very good suspicion it could be a giant shark tank, although getting them over from Mystic River Falls over to Fire in the Hole would be quite interesting. So basically said, it's old as my dad and been there since my dad was a kid. Yeah, 51 years. Yep, absolutely. Tweetsy brings up a good point. If you are interested in it, there is a Fire in the Hole. It's actually called Blazing Fury over at Dollywood. Dollywood was, goodness, I don't remember what its original name was, but it was bought after Silver Dollar City in Branson was opened. They changed it to Silver Dollar City, Tennessee. And a couple years after that, they built Blazing Fury, which is basically a copy of Fire in the Hole, but it's a little bit more of a salute to firefighters in general. It doesn't have the ball knobbers. The trains are a little different. It's very, very, very similar, but it's not quite the same. Blazing Fury is not going anywhere. It has been refurbished and redone a few years back. It's in good shape. Blazing Fury is going to be running for a while. So if you don't get a chance to ride Fire in the Hole and you want to know what it's like, Blazing Fury will give you a great idea out there. So let's see. Am I excited for the new ride? I'll be even more excited when they actually open it. Hey, look, an Amazon warehouse. Thank you, Tweetsy. Originally Rebel Railroad. I was trying to get that. And then Gold Rush Junction. So Craig Opus, this is a common sentiment here. It seems like they take away little things on the ride every year. It's not that they take them away, they break down. And they're so old that they can't necessarily be fixed or replaced. So it's not necessarily that they want to take it away. They just can't put it back and get it working again. This is the same issue Flooded Mine is having. Is it so old, those things are not available anymore, and they either have to handcraft it or it just doesn't work. It's like trying to get parts for a Studebaker. They don't make Studebaker parts anymore because they don't make Studebakers. So that's kind of one of the big issues there is they just can't replace this stuff. They can't fix it. It's coming to a point where for them to, if they were to have certain parts break, trying to figure out a way to get replacement parts is going to become impossible here pretty soon. That, and then you add in the condition of the building and the structure and all of this other stuff, and it's just a losing proposition. It's why you see old rides like rotors not exist anymore. You can't get parts. So how do you keep something going that you can't get the parts for? So unfortunately, it's just end of life. That is what happens. I love that they are putting in a replacement at Fireman's Landing. I love that they're wanting to keep that spirit there and hopefully be able to go back and do it. Could the blacksmith fix it? There are ways you can hand machine some of the stuff, but it's hard, it's expensive. You got to get really, really good people to do it. Tweetsy, it was sorry, originally operated by the same people who ran Tweetsy, is the original Dollywood owners. It's one of the few rides everybody would get on, and I believe that's the hope for the replacement that is coming as well. So, Rails and Rust. Okay, not a good analogy. I hope most people would understand the point I'm making there, but they still have to make all those parts custom. You can't just, or there's, it's all has to be made custom. So, so that's what they're doing, is they are building a new one. Do I think they will bring old props from the old ride? I have no idea. I don't know what their plan actually is on that, and they haven't said. So that's going to be a lot of wait and see game. Hopefully, I'm sure they will have something in there as some sort of tribute to the original, but we will kind of see. That there's a lot with the new ride that we're just going to have to wait and see. And that's one of the big things, is what's going to happen. I don't know. What is very interesting, like I said, I'm sure they want to make it family friendly. I'm sure they want it to be something everybody can get on and replace. What's going to be interesting is what happens with the spot that it is. One of the things that they said in the live stream announcement today was this is the start of 10 years of big additions. That kind of is a big key to me here. One of the things that was rumored about when I was there working was that they eventually wanted to take the park and expand it out backwards towards the woods, towards the area where the robbery is. Not going all the way to the robbery, but expanding out back that way. And you have a couple things that are kind of in the way. One is where Fire in the Hole sits right now. It kind of blocks that whole way off. There's an access road that goes down towards Outlaw Run that employees can use, but the train runs right through there. The other spot that you have is you can go to Outlaw Run and you can keep going out to the woods. There's actually a gate, and we would use that sometimes as robbers to walk out down the tracks towards where the robbery is. So now my mind's going, hey, are they going to finally take all this land they have there and finally start expanding the park? That's kind of what I suspect. Let me see here. Time Nerd. So after this, Flooded Mine, the lone survivor. Yes, and Flooded Mine's aging too. I don't know what Flooded Mine's timeline is, whether it's sooner or later. But eventually, Flooded Mine, this same kind of thing is going to catch up. So it's just one of those things that's going to happen. Let's see. I remember one of the times that we went on, the guy that Ned Flanders is the one who lost his pants. Really funny hearing the soundtrack, but not the guy. Yeah. Yes, and that's one of the deals. They've had to actually replace Ned Flanders a couple times. But one of the rumors that you will hear is they're going to build a new train depot where Fire in the Hole is. I honestly have my very strong doubts about that for a few reasons. One, like I said, they're talking 10-year expansion. So if they expand the park out that direction, you're going to need a couple different walkways. One would be where Fire in the Hole is. The other would be Outlaw Run. You could run two different walkways, and you could build a loop of attractions and stuff out there and extend the park out. I honestly, that's kind of what I suspect will happen. And it wouldn't be surprised if you see them build like a bridge or a walking tunnel under the train or something like that eventually. Um, but to do that, you're going to have to open that area up. If you put the train depot there, there's no good reason to move the train depot. There's just not. Not a single one. The only real reason is, oh, but you can move it closer to the roundhouse. And then you end up with this weird empty spot where the train is now and where the flooded mine is. And trust me, it does not work that well. Also, the only person that is saying they're going to move the train there, if you hear anybody saying, well, yeah, I've heard, they've all heard from one person. The same person is the one who said that they were going to completely redo the entrance and move it over by Red Gold, which happens to be now where they've got the brand new ride going. They also said that they were going to take the amphitheater and move it over by uh, to the other side of the park, by the parking lots, which it's obviously not moving. So this person, they believe that they're a person of influence and everything, and they run a website. They don't know what they think they know. I am highly skeptical of the train station getting moved there for multiple reasons. It's just not a very big area. It's not a wide area. It's not a workable area for a lot of reasons. There's access roads there. I believe that they're going to use it to open it up and actually, hopefully, do what they were talking about 10 years ago and expand the park out that direction. It's overdue. They've doubled the size of Dollywood in 10 to 15 years, and they haven't done it at all at Silver Dollar City. So it's way overdue. Be interesting to see Silver Dollar City become comparable to Dollywood at some point. Here's the thing that frustrates me. 2004, when I visited Silver Dollar City and Dollywood for the first time, they were actually the same size. Dollywood, like I said, in that time has more than doubled in size. They were a little V. Actually, Silver Dollar City might have even been bigger than Dollywood at that point. And since then, Dollywood has filled in this whole thing. And like I said, they've more than doubled. Silver Dollar City's barely grown at all. They've added the Outlaw Run Spur. That's about it. So, but that's why. Chad, you must have missed the whole first part of the stream. It's old. It's falling apart. It's getting harder and harder to keep it running, to find replacement parts, to rebuild it. The building is just aged. It's like a car that's falling apart, and it's going to cost too much to keep it fixed. So, could they use the Fire in the Hole space to expand the Opera House's show lovers queue? Possibly. It depends upon how they want to open it up. So, ooh, hey, in the commercial, you see my pants and shoes. I'm the one walking on the right. That's very cool. It's always fun. How much of a risk it was to build Fire in the Hole and the flooded mine? Oh, yeah. When they first started building all that stuff, it was a crazy risk, but look how well it's done. So, let's see. Oh, that person said a lot of wrong. Yeah. So the person I was referring to actually told me at one point how we ran the train, and that he actually even said at one point that we ran 3 trains. I'm like, it's impossible to run 3 trains. There aren't even 3 trains worth of cars. So yeah, there's a lot of people that go, oh, he said it. And I'm like, stop listening to this dingling. So, but, the logistics behind moving it, yeah. So, like I said, this whole idea of the moving the train station, I talked to some of the engineers, and they have, now of course they can't comment on anything officially, but they did say, I asked them, have you heard anything about this? And like, not from anywhere inside the park. So, yeah, it's not coming from inside the park, that's for sure. Mention this, but wonder if they could turn the Fire in the Hole ride building into a themed restaurant. The building is not up to it. Very simply, when they take the ride down, the building's going to have to come down too. The building is part of the issue, because it just has to be rebuilt. So what you're going to end up with, Dickens, if you ever get to go see that, they say don't go out the one side of the building because it leads to an unsavory part of London. That's actually back area Fire in the Hole. That's going to get opened up. You'll probably see some stores and stuff, and I would expect a few years down the road, you're going to see them expand the park out that direction, and you'll see something get added out there. That is my suspicion. So Would I support this petition? Say fire in the hole. No, I would not, because you are then wanting them to have a ride that's not going to work right, that's not going to be able to be kept up, that will eventually turn into a safety liability. So sorry, Larkin, it's not going to get saved. It can't be saved. They need to deal with it now while they can, before it ends up in a position where it's not going to be able to be taken care of. So the saddest part is seeing people get so upset over its closure. And this is frustrating. This has been a not very well kept secret for well over a year now. And like I said, we knew when I worked there that it was starting to age, that they were going to have to do something. And at that point in time, they were talking about a possible full rebuild, tearing everything down, rebuilding it back on the spot. That's essentially what they're doing with the new version, but they're putting it in the Fireman's Landing area, where it's going to fit much better thematically. So, did I see the Fire in the Hole shirt they just released? Yes, there's going to be a new Fire in the Hole shirt, a memorial one. They've got a mug special for it, and several other things. They're going to have special events, and they said that they're planning a series of different events throughout the year to commemorate. So it will be very, very cool that way. Is the Fire in the Hole building connected to the Opera House? I know up in the front it looks like it. I have actually not been back behind. I don't think so. I think they are actually separate buildings that have an alleyway between them and a fence that looks like it's one. I believe they're separate, but don't positively quote me like that. So, yeah. So I think they should be able to give away or sell some piece of the fire. Who knows? They might. They very well might. I would not be surprised at all. So Colton, I think people think operating unsafe ride. Okay, so let me be clear. It is not an unsafe ride, at least not right now. If they keep operating it a few more years, it could possibly eventually get that way because of the aging. You've got things, for example, the splashdown brake that you saw in the video, that wears on all those parts and everything, and it becomes old. It would be safe for a few more years, but it would get to a point where it would no longer be safe, and that's the problem. And to avoid that, they've got to rebuild it somehow. So that's what they run into. Is it's at some point it's going to run into end of life, and it's getting close. So we better deal with it before it does get to end of life and has another really issue. I personally like to see them save and reuse as much as they can for the new one. I'm not optimistic. I don't know. There are so many people upset about the replacement. It's possible they might. They have not said either way at all. So I don't know. We will have to see. We'll have to see. So, but that's all those things that what they're going to do is they're going to use this year as the farewell to the old one. And then they will announce at the end of the year the new one that is coming and what will be going on, and if they will keep it up and transition things and stuff like that. So we'll get to see towards the end of the year. So we got a year to say goodbye, and then we'll have 6 months to wait for the new one. So and this I do appreciate. I think Silver Dollar City couldn't have done anything better to honor Fire in the Hole's legacy than celebrating it all season long. They have not always done that. The train's 50th anniversary, we didn't celebrate. We had ribbons that we made. My boss actually made them personally. I like, though, that because things got delayed, they realized, hey, you know what? We could actually do this right and give it a good send-off. And I appreciate that. A lot of parks don't give their rides when they're closing them down a good send-off. And we get to do that. So that's actually a really wonderful thing that they're going to do. So I do really like that they're going to give it a good send-off here. So how many times have you been on it? A lot. I don't count how many times. I'm not one of those guys that carries a clicker, but I have been on it a lot. I will say the fact that so much of this ride was one-off and homemade to a certain extent does lend well to at least some things getting moved over. How much Yeah, it's up in the air. And they did. They built this ride completely in-house from scratch. Their own people built it. It wasn't even a company they hired out. You don't do stuff like that anymore. So it is kind of neat to be able to see that. Um, but and Brendan Neely mentions one of the exceptions. Six Flags Over Texas gave the Texas Shootout a good send-off. Yes, they did. That was really good. Any updates on the train after the wreck? No. I have not heard anything, and at this point, I'll defer to the park on that, and they will announce what they will. Only thing I really know is they hope to have the train open when the park opens. We'll see. But so that's kind of the update on Fire in the Hole. It's aging. It's end of life. It's time. Unfortunately, you would rather have it go when it's time and still safe and still good than try to stretch it out to the point where it's not, and then end up in a position that you don't want to be in. So it then goes from there. Let's give it a good send off. Let's put in a good replacement. Let's do this right. And that is basically what is happening. As Abby says, I'm happy they're letting us say goodbye to the ride. Don't think the new ride will be anything like Dollywood's. If it's anything like Dollywood's, it's going to be like the original Fire in the Hole, because Dollywood's is a copy of Fire in the Hole. So that's what you have to realize. Don't get your hopes up on that. The train is a big question mark still. There are some things I know about the train and stuff, but I cannot share them publicly. I know there's some things that need to be done. I don't know where they are in the progress of doing those. But the hope is to open with the park. So we will see. This is neat too. Ride's very important to coast history, as the first indoor roller coaster came a couple of years before Space Mountain. There are others. Most of them are called dark rides, but there are other rides similar that had a bit of a coaster drop. In fact, I'm actually going to go visit one of them this summer that has been around for a long time. So you do have some rides that are similar, but not on the same scale as Fire in the Hole. Fire in the Hole, 95% of it is a dark ride. It's a powered deal up. It's just got a couple drops that are very roller coaster like. And there have been others similar to that, but not with the water splashed down to use as a brake, not on the same scale. So, but it is a very historic coaster. There's very few indoor rides like it that have lasted that long. So, let's see here. Let's see. Ultimately, don't be sad it's over. Be happy that it happened. That's the best thing we do. Yep, absolutely. Go to Silver Dollar City every other year, changing plans so we can go this year to say goodbye. That's a great way to do it. The lines are going to be long this year. And they are doing their best to get a new ride as soon as they can. Jacob Jones, Black Diamond and Knoebels is another good example of a similar type ride too. So let's see. And like I said, there's some people asking about the train in the channel, and very simply, what I know about the train, I can't share publicly. Some of it's not public knowledge. Some of it, they are doing things there, but it depends upon the work being done and who's able to do it and what they can get done. So yes, there is work that needs to be done at the train. I don't know where it is in progress, but there's things that have to happen. And again, what has been told to me by several people is the hope is opening day. We will see what happens, and if the work gets progressed and done like they hope. That's all I can say. So anything beyond that is speculation and rumor. And so please be aware of that. I know there's a lot of people, hey, I know this, or I heard that, or I've got this. The people that know aren't talking. So that's going to be, that's the one thing to keep in mind with the train. We will find out when the park says something, when the park opens, or when the people who know talk. And that's kind of where we're at. Josh jumping in late. Yes, they are building a replacement over at Fireman's Landing. They have not made any announcements on it yet. It is a terribly kept secret, kind of like Outlaw Run was when they were building it. Big, huge building at Fireman's Landing. It's going to be the replacement. We know Rocky Mountain is building the coaster track They haven't said it officially, but it's obviously what pieces of track have shown up. It's theirs. So that's what we know is there's some form of replacement. We just don't know what or how it was going on like that. So, and then IROC. Okay, so this is what I want to close with because this is also a good point. What do you think they will do with all that land they bought last year? So here's something a lot of people are going, well, see, now they just bought all this land, so now they can grow the park. Those of you who don't know, you can actually pull up a plot map online of who owns all of the land. Silver Dollar City has owned all of the land from the park all the way down to Table Rock Lake for a long time. They've owned a lot of the land along Highway 76 for a long time. This land they just bought does not affect growing the park at all because it's not even next to the park. They've had all this land they could have expanded into for years now. And I think they're finally going to act on it. The 800 acres that they bought, honestly, doesn't impact the park growth really. They did buy a couple small plots of land recently that they're using to help expand the parking lot. But if they're going to grow the park, it's on land that they already own that was already there. There are lots of people saying, hey, resort hotel, hey, new water park, and none of that is coming from Silver Dollar City. This is wishful thinking, and people that are going, what could I do if I own the land? None of that's coming from the park because the park hasn't indicated what they're going to do with it, if anything. They've had a lot of land, I mean, thousands of acres sitting empty for years and wanting to leave it sit empty. I don't know if that's going to change. So don't start thinking they've got all this land, they're going to grow and build. That's not the land they're going to grow the park on. They would grow the park on land that they had already owned previously. And the other acreage, I don't know if they even have plans for it yet. They just like gathering up all the land around the park, so they eventually have that option. So, let's see. Am I looking forward to Dollywood's Big Round opening this year? I'm not going to be able to get out there, so I don't know. But am I going to do a Tuesday night broadcast this week? Honestly, I wasn't planning on doing a live stream at all. I was going to throw up a couple shorts, and then this announced today. And so I was like, all right, let's change plans. We'll do live stream tonight. Tomorrow I am going to take a day off and rest and relax a little bit because I need one. And then we might have some dinner. But yeah, so this is my Tuesday night. It's just a day early. But that's kind of where we're at. I'll see if we happen to have any other questions here. Happen to be at Silver Dollar City when the park is not very busy. Might ride a scooter to get around from ride to ride. Be careful with those scooters on downhills. I've seen lots of them go. So, yeah, they're kind of funny. So, and weaponized toast. Maybe all the land they bought is just so it stays nature. That is one of the goals of the company, and I would not be surprised at all. So, and Andrew, wishful thinking. They've had tons of unused land for many years. That land they bought is not something to fall back on. So again, that's one of those deals. Be careful what you hear on the internet from people who have wishful thinking. So, Mr. 65, did they have a big raft ride before? Yeah, it was the Lost River, but they lost it. It really was called the Lost River. My line on the train was, hey, that's the Lost River. I don't know why we call it the Lost River. It's right there. But yeah, be careful what you hear out there. There's lots of stuff, and I won't tell you something is going to happen unless it's definitely going to happen. You won't see me making stuff up. I'm very careful, and you can look, like I said, go on the internet, Stone County, Missouri land plot ownership. I think is what it is. And you can actually pull up the map and click on all those plots of land and see who owns it. And it'll actually even tell you when they bought it. And you can see how long Silver Dollar City has owned all of that land. So no change there. So, Richard, updated. Want to say, love your shirt. Why, thank you. Oh, and by the way, bow ties are cool. So, Blazing Fury at Dollywood better in any way. It's basically the same ride. It's pretty much the same ride. So, any idea what events they have planned for it? I don't. They will announce them as they come. I'm sure they will have a number of special things. So I think that will cover it, guys. I don't want to belabor the point too much. I want to keep it short and sweet. So, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I appreciate it. This is something that we knew was coming. I've actually known for a few years that Fire in the Hole's lifespan was dimming. I think Flooded Mine now, I think, starts on kind of the same path to eventually get a replacement as well. Excuse me. But we do know we've got a replacement of some sort. What it's going to be, I don't know. But yeah, it's time. It's done its duty. It has done it wonderfully. We appreciate everything it's given. It's time to salute it this year and let it go peacefully before we have issues. But I would loved it. I've loved Fire in the Hole since the first time I wrote it. And get in your last rides this year, and then we'll get excited about what's coming up new next year. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate it. And have a wonderful time. And if you know people wondering about Fire in the Hole and why and whatnot, please don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. I know I give you the same steal, but definitely get the video out there because we want to help keep down the misinformation stuff that will get out there. So would love if you shared. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a great night, everybody.